starts to lose. He pulls out another 10,000. More losses. So next he decides to go to the high roller room on the 3rd floor and sets the entire 30,000 on the table. He wins a little, but there he gets a call from work that he ignores and lets go to his voicemail. But that call shakes him up. Kaysen realizes what he's done with bank money, and he's feeling really desperate to win and get out of the casino, so he puts the rest of his cash down, and he loses. He gets up and walks out, calls his regional manager, who's his boss, and confesses to him. Next he goes to a hotel, calls his mother and his sister and girlfriend, asks them to come to the room, and Carson says he did like a self-intervention. Turns out that his mother, sister, and the regional bank manager support him as he faces the reality of his deeds. He ends up with a day in jail and 5 years probation. Looking back on this moment, Kaysen says this about it, that he's told the story in many places, starting in church basements, then later on NPR and other podcasts. Kaysen concludes, he tells the story to larger audiences now because it's the most expensive story I got. It is an expensive story, but it's not simply about spending and losing big money. Yes, a lot of money changed hands. The story is not a financial balance sheet. Kaysen's story is expensive because it's a deep and rich story. It includes several deeply caring figures, mother, sister, bank manager, all giving lavishly, loving lavishly at this pivotal moment in the young man's life, with a high-stakes commitment to Kaysen. There's the reversal, something of far greater value than cash. These figures in Kaysen's story were highly invested, not with money, with deep pockets of commitment to the young man, a deep well of love and hope. Today's gospel is an expensive story. There's some extravagant spending and deep, heartfelt commitment, deep giving, and a well of hope. John's gospel story takes place only a week before Jesus is arrested. Jesus and his disciples arrive for dinner in Bethany. It's the home of his cherished friends, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. We know that there were deep friendship bonds between the three and Jesus. He had dined with his three friends before. And John's gospel has already recounted the story of Jesus weeping with Mary of Bethany in anguish over Lazarus' death, and Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. So here they are dining together, Jesus, Mary, and other disciples. We don't know much about Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. They don't have parents in this story, and no mention of a husband. Since it would be very unusual not to marry in Jewish society at that time, perhaps they are very young, maybe teenagers. Perhaps their parents have died. Mary appears to be well off, since the siblings could afford to host dinners. And Mary enters the story carrying a pound of nard. Nard oil was expensive, as Jesus is quick to point out. Judas, the treasurer of the disciples, who is also dining with them, loudly objects. Perhaps any treasurer would. Judas proclaims that the value of such perfume is 300 denarii. Now at the time, 300 denarii was typically about a year's wages for a worker. It was custom to wash the feet when guests arrived for dinner. John's telling of this rather mundane event is pretty dramatic. Mary takes the costly perfume, anoints Jesus' feet with the nard, wipes his feet with her hair, and the fragrance fills the room. If one weighs the cost, a pound of perfume of Jesus, to use the words of New Testament scholar Raymond Collins. The real subject of John's story is Jesus. Anointing with oil has always had deep religious significance. In the Old Testament, a person was anointed for a task: a priest, prophet, or king, and prophets anointed future kings. When Mary anoints Jesus, she may have been anointing him as a king, the Messiah, a prophetic action. And of course, anointing oils were used after someone died. We can also understand Mary's anointing of Jesus as a burial anointing, a week or so premature, but again, prophetic. Mary of Bethany acts with extraordinary love and focus, extraordinary commitment. She is bold, she is extravagant, and she is prophetic. She steps into a risky proclamation when she pours oil on Jesus' feet. She communicates Jesus' identity. She fearlessly and outwardly proclaims the totality of her commitment to Jesus in this anointing. Think a bit about the precarious position Jesus is in at this time, only a week before he's killed. Jesus had many enemies, Roman and Jewish, who would bring him down if he could. Jesus certainly knew he was in danger and that his ministry could end in a terrible death. Jesus was aware that many misunderstood what he was about, that some hated and feared him. It's very likely that Mary also knew the danger that Jesus was in, that knew that he faced an ominous future. Such discipleship may have costs. We see that immediately. Mary of Bethany's action provoked Judas' rancorous outburst. And of course, if we understand the anointing as a preview of Jesus' death, we, the readers, know the high costs of Jesus' ministry. His life was at stake. This Lent, St. Luke's Adult Education Group is reading a series of reflections by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a German Presbyterian minister who was arrested in 1943 for his refusal to serve in the German military and his outspoken opposition to Hitler. In the name of his Christian faith, Bonhoeffer was executed on April 8, 1945, only 10 days before the German forces began to surrender. He was 39 years old. Bonhoeffer proclaimed a deep and abiding discipleship, a giving of the whole heart to God that led to his imprisonment and execution. The camp doctor at Flossenburg, who witnessed Bonhoeffer's execution, wrote, "In the almost 50 years that I worked as a doctor, I have hardly ever seen a man die so entirely submissive to the will of God." Bonhoeffer's story, too, is an expensive one of deep courage and faith and selfless giving, a path that seems very difficult, almost impossible to follow. Bonhoeffer challenges us, God needs the whole heart. He wrote extensively about faith and commitment to Christ in a harrowing moment in history. Our group will read one of his meditations this week as preparation for Holy Week, in which he offers a beautiful reflection on Christ. King in the Spirit, the Lord of all life and grace. His is the deed, his is the way, his is the grace, his is the Spirit, and his is our service and our life. His is the honor above all creation. We may not be asked to give as extravagantly as Dietrich Bonhoeffer gave to God. Our call may be closer to that of Mary of